Hello dudes, Axel here. Welcome to, for the first time in quite a while, another Axel's Linux log. I don't remember when the last one of these that I did was. It was a while ago though. But for this one, I just want to talk about Solus. It is another Linux distribution. Now for the most part, I have mostly just used Ubuntu-based Linux distros and whatnot. I tried OpenSUSE once. I was on Fedora for a little bit at 1.2. Mostly it's been Ubuntu-based stuff, but Solus here is probably one of the few non-Ubuntu-based distributions that I've been super interested in. And honestly, probably sometime very soon I'm going to make it my main distribution that I use, but there are some caveats to that. But anyway, in this video, I'm going to talk about what I like about Solus, and then later we'll get to why there are still some issues with it for me. But let's just talk about Solus. This is going to kind of, sort of be not really a review, because I don't do reviews usually, except for that one time did I review the Steam controller or just look at it? I kind of sort of reviewed the Steam controller. That's about it, though. That was hardware, though. This is software. Anyway, Solus is what they basically refer to it as like. Well, technically, it's an independent distribution because it's like unlike a lot of other Linux distros out there. It's not based on anything else. It was built from the ground up, totally independent, and it's pretty cool. So you see here on their website, Solus is an operating system that is designed for home computing. Every tweak enables us to deliver a cohesive computer experience. So the goal behind Solus is, like, it is focused on the desktop. You have things like a lot of other distros that, yes, they are also kind of for the desktop, but like, there's also a lot of focus on server-side stuff or Internet of Things type stuff, like enterprise, whatever. Solus is for the desktop, for the user, as I understand it. And that's awesome. That's awesome. So, there's that. That's a great thing right there, too. They are for the user, for the desktop use, and that's great for us. They also have some cool things, like, related to Steam and whatnot. They do a lot of other cool stuff. We'll get to that in a moment, though, because they also have, for the most part, like, pretty much all the software that I need in their repositories, except for one very important one, which is a very niche situation, but it is still very important for me. But, we'll get to that in a moment. So, for Solus, it has 3 desktop environments officially supported right now. You got Budgie, which I am currently using here. This is installed on my computer, by the way. It's not like in a virtual machine or anything. This is like a secondary partition I have for testing distributions. So this is on my hardware, not through a virtual machine or anything. And I'm not convinced that Budgie is it's certainly not my favorite desktop. It is great. It is pretty good, though. Pretty good. Nicely customizable. No serious complaints with it, really. I am still a big fan of KDE Plasma, though. But, that being said, right now they have Budgie, GNOME, and Mate. Budgie is their homegrown flagship desktop, and, you know, it is pretty good. Is certainly pretty good. They are currently in the process for Budgie 11 of switching it over from being based on GNOME technologies and like GTK and stuff over to Qt, which like KDE Plasma and LX Qt are based upon. Man, even though I know I've like learned that that's the proper pronunciation, I still want to say Qt because that just sounds better. But it's apparently supposed to be cute. Whatever. It's QT. I'm not calling it cute. For those of you that might be confused, who aren't as into the Linuxy stuff, I'm not calling it cute. It's like Q lowercase t. just for your information. So anyway, they're in the process of like converting Budgie over to being based on Qt instead of GTK to do with it all that they want to do. They needed like a better toolkit and to not be reliant on GNOME or something like that. There's blog posts about that. I'm not describing it very well. Well, don't worry about that. Anyway, they do also offer a full GNOME desktop here, or GNOME. God, pronunciation stuff. Freaking Linux. You know, that's funny. They have Budgie, which that's obvious. Budgie. How else would you pronounce that? But then their other two desktops are two that also have like pronunciation confusion, because like, you know, that you'd think GNOME, but apparently it's supposed to be GNOME because it's GNU something. I don't know what the rest of it stands for. And then that looks like mate, right? Nope. Mate. It's supposed to be based on a Spanish word for like some tea, I think. I don't actually know about that one. Anyway, yeah, you get sweet. Fair warning, 6 minutes in. This is going to be very rambly. Probably should have said that at the beginning. Don't worry. All my Linux logs are. That's why it's Linux log and not like just Akzel's impressions on Solus or something. I'm going to try to keep anything that has Akzel's Linux log on it to be categorized as the rambly type things, because that's what they're going to be. Anyway, these are the desktops that does have available. I'm currently using Budgie on here. I have Solus Mate on my laptop because it's a very, well, I was going to say very old laptop. Not necessarily very old, but weak laptop. Solus Mate runs great on that. Solus Budgie here runs fantastic. I haven't really done much, if any, gaming on it yet. But, you know, I have used Solus before in the past for a little bit. But the reason I switched from it back then was a thing we're going to get into when I start going over the software. So another cool thing with Solus is, unlike Ubuntu and Ubuntu-based distros, it doesn't do like a fixed release cycle like Ubuntu does it every 6 months, and then like every 2 years is a long-term support version. Solus is kind of like Arch Linux, is a rolling release where like everything is continuously updated, but it's a curated rolling release, so it's not quite bleeding edge, but still fairly up to date, which I really like that approach. So more points for Solus. Solus is great. Anyway, there's something else I was going to go to, I think, here. Right, I was talking about how I personally really like the Plasma desktop. Eventually, they do have plans to, eventually have, they have a specific person who is like the maintainer of KDE software within the Solus repositories and whatnot, and eventually they do plan to eventually, I've said eventually like 10 times in the past like minute, but at some point they want to support a full Plasma stack on Solus, so sooner or later Plasma Desktop will be officially supported on the Solus operating system, so that's pretty exciting for me. In the meantime, though, I am learning my way around Budgie, and it's fine. It's fine. A lot of similarities to GNOME, actually, in some of the use cases, because it is at this point very based upon GNOME. They have the cool little I don't know what to call it. I actually don't remember what to call that. Hold on. I feel really dumb right now. Let's see. About this little panel here is called Raven. I know they have like a name for it, like the term for it. Control Center? We'll go with Control Center. I think that's wrong, but we'll go with Control Center. So anyway, with Raven, you can see all your audio stuff, got a calendar thing, notifications are in there, you can adjust settings for like the panel and whatnot, and Budgie, and like the panel and all the stuff over there has a built-in theme which can be separate from your overall system theme, which I'm using Arc, and I like Arc Used to not be crazy about Arc, but that was before I looked at the non-dark version. Because I don't really like the dark version for whatever reason. Because like Arc Dark is like that, which it's not bad. I don't know. Kind of started to like the light Arc for some reason, especially on Plasma. I really do like the Plasma desktop. Anyway, so Solus is a curated rolling release, as I mentioned. I wasn't done talking about Raven. Right, so themes, fonts. It's kind of like a control center in a way. Like there is another whole entire settings thing here. It's the GNOME settings program thing. I'm not very well versed in terminology for this stuff. Don't mind me. Like they do have this, but the Raven menu provides access to a lot of things that you can find here. Well, actually, no, a lot of these things actually would be within the GNOME Tweak tool, but you have them available right here as well, which is quite nice. You can also add more panels. You can move this panel. I can move it to the bottom if I wanted to, but I do like having my panel on the top. I said this in the past once before. I like having a top mounted panel, whatever you want to call it, a top oriented panel. I like my panel on the top of the monitor, top of the screen, because like that's at eye level basically. Whereas if it was on the bottom, I'd have to look down for things, which is not as comfortable, not as intuitive to me. You can adjust the size of the panel, all that good stuff. Turn shadows on and off. You can unstylize the regions. I think it looks nice with that on. Make the panel as big or small as you want to. You can customize the applets here, which kind of like widgets in Plasma, which one thing I certainly like about Budgie, and in extension also the Cinnamon Mate desktops for that matter, moreover Cinnamon, is there's actually, like, unlike Plasma with its panels, with Plasma you cannot like center align things, which really bugs me, but with this there's just a whole section here for center, and I love it so much. So I do appreciate the panel customization that Budgie does have to it. We can also add more applets. Really wish there was a weather applet, because I'd like to have that up here somewhere. That'd be nice, just have my weather available. But as far as I'm aware, there's not. If there is, I haven't found it. It'd probably be in the Software Center somewhere if it was. So instead, I just have GNOME Weather here, which, you know, is kind of beside the point, but yeah, GNOME Weather is actually a pretty nice application. That's another thing. Like, as much as I like Plasma, a lot of the things with it do kind of bug me a little bit, because like there's a weather widget for the Plasma desktop that you can either have on the desktop or in the panel or whatever, but for some reason it can't show current temperature. It just shows the high and the low for that day, and then like the forecast, but only the high and low, not the current temperature. I don't know why it's limited like that, but it bothers me so much. So I will say, as far as applications go, there are a good number of KDE applications I do like, but GNOME has a good amount of good ones too, and I like their weather app. Looks very nice too. But that's a GNOME thing, not a Solus thing. So anyway, that's Raven. Pretty cool. Those are settings. So I mentioned how Solus is a curated rolling release, and they do have quite a good amount of software that I make use of, with one exception. We will get to that exception in a moment. But certain things they do have that you won't find in, say, the Ubuntu repositories for the latest version or whatever. There's this program, Lutris, which is pretty cool. Still kind of in early stages. I guess it'd be considered alpha still. I'm not actually sure, but Lutris is pretty cool. It is also available on Ubuntu, just not like directly in the repositories, to my knowledge. So Lutris is pretty cool, because let's give it a second to load up here. Right, I haven't actually logged in or connected to things yet, but basically it's a, well, let's read the description here. Open Gaming Platform Linux helps you install and manage your games in a unified interface. Now, obviously, I have Steam. Those are all kind of managed within Steam anyway. But what Lutris can do is it also like has you can install Wine and a bunch of emulators with it, but like the thing with having Wine through Lutris is it's kind of isolated, because if you have Wine through Lutris, you don't have Wine like on your system itself. So like if I only have Lutris installed and do not have Wine installed separately, I can't go and like run a let's say Notepad or something like outside of Lutris, because I don't actually have Wine on my system. It's through Lutris. So that might be good from a security standpoint too. I don't actually know for sure, but it kind of seems that way. Anyway, you can also quite easily have the Wine version of Steam through, or the Windows version of Steam through Wine through Lutris. It's very convenient for managing a bunch of different game stuff, especially the emulators. That's very nice. So Lutris is pretty cool. They also have this, Linux Steam integration. That is a Solus thing. So actually a Solus thing, not just in general. So Linux Steam integration, basically, you can force Steam to use the runtime stuff that's already on your operating system rather than, I think it's like older libraries that are within Steam itself that might not be as compatible or something. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but they do cool things like this, like Linux Steam integration, basically enabling better Steam integration on Linux. So I personally do not notice much difference. I'm sure there is some good under the hood stuff though going on, but yeah, I'm not a super expert on that. So yeah, so while Solus does not have like all of the software under the sun, what it does have is a lot of the more useful things that you would want as a home user, for example. But okay, we're not gonna get into the but just yet. We're almost there. They also provide convenient access to a bunch of third-party software. Now, with all of these, technically, these are not in the Solus repositories because licensing issues, they can't really do that. So what it is like basically getting that stuff through the Software Center here. They have it to where you can get it through the Software Center. What it basically does is, I'm assuming anyway, it just, through the Software Center, it gets the software from that source and then gets it all set up for your system. So you can even get Chrome super easily, Spotify client, Skype, although fuck Skype. Speaking of, Discord is in the repos, so that's super easy to get to. What else? What's another good example? Plex Media Server, if you want that. InSync is a Google Drive client, because for some reason Google doesn't have a Google Drive client for Linux, although InSync is cross-platform, I think. I kind of want to try that out sometime, but I don't really use Google Drive all that much anyway. Flash stuff. In Pass, which I've started using, it's Password Manager, very convenient. But yeah, so they do have cool stuff, like easy access to a bunch of third-party stuff through their Software Center. They're gonna make things even better at some point by like integrating Flatpak for this sort of thing. I'm not going to try to explain Flatpak here, but basically it's for like, makes it easier to have cross-distribution software for like various Linux distributions. The distributions just have to support Flatpak itself, then you can have them on like whatever, makes it easier to package for developers, all that good stuff. Pretty cool things. Solus plans to use that for third-party things, not necessarily their non-third-party stuff. The third-party stuff, by the way, is basically like proprietary software. So like, that's what it means by third-party, because obviously Solus does not produce all of the software within the repositories here. So basically third-party is just stuff that they cannot have directly in their repos. Anyway, while we're looking at the software center here, I like their software center in general. It's very nice. The categories make sense. It's improving all the time. In my opinion, very easy to find what you're looking for. It also does not hide things like specific packages like other software centers and stuff like that might. So if we just look for something that's not like a typical user application thing, like let's say just P7-zip. It's right here. Apparently I don't have that installed. I actually kind of want that. Hold on. So there you go. It's like pretty much the Linux implementation of 7-zip, to put that very simply. So yeah, I like their software center a lot because it works well for what it does, and it's pretty cool. Like I was saying earlier, curated rolling release. So even though I was saying like not quite bleeding edge, but still fairly up to date, it's usually they get the latest versions of stuff fairly quickly. So you would not be behind on software for the most part. That all being said, I'm going to finally go in to the buts that I keep referring to. The one software, okay, well, not the only one, but like the biggest example that severely hinders my, it gives me great hesitance to fully switch to Solus, but I'm probably going to anyway. So it's a very niche situation, I assume. So basically, this problem first surfaced way back around when I was starting to switch to Linux. I was doing a Firewatch stream, and the game audio was very distorted sounding for whatever reason. So I was trying to look into it, trying to fix it, and I discovered that by having OBS take the audio from my HDMI out rather than from my audio interface, the audio was just fine at that point. So that made me realize that for whatever reason, trying to record the audio straight from like a monitoring of my audio interface results in it being distorted for some reason. But I can safely do that just fine from the HDMI out of my graphics card. So what I wound up doing to solve that before, which is, you know, perfectly able to be done on Ubuntu-based stuff and most other distributions because they have so much more software overall than Solus, is a thing called Pulse Audio Preferences. Within that, there's this little box that I can check that does a virtual output stream that's like a simultaneous. It basically, I can have applications output their audio to like all of my audio output sources, and so I would have the games go through that, and then I could have OBS record from the HDMI, and I would still be listening to things just fine on my Scarlett's 2i4 audio interface, which I have my microphone put into, and I use it for my audio output to listen to things. That software is not packaged for Solus. Now, if I knew what I was doing, I could just compile it from source myself, which I'll probably figure out how to do, honestly. So I made it out to seem like a bigger issue than it actually is, because it's really not. I can just compile the package myself if I want to, once I learn how to. It's probably not that difficult, honestly. But, yeah, so that's not currently available on Solus. But, the nice thing about the Plasma Desktop is they have in the audio settings for the Plasma Desktop, they have a little checkbox that does that same thing without needing to have Pulse Audio Preferences installed. So that's another reason I'm very excited for Solus, hopefully soon, having an official implementation of the Plasma Desktop, because then I wouldn't need to worry about Pulse Audio Preferences. But yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing is Somewhat recently, I kind of sort of switched from using Kdenlive as my video editor to Lightworks. Lightworks, despite them promising to forever ago, apparently in 2010, is still not open source, and therefore, they only provide packages for Ubuntu-based, or, well, Debian / Ubuntu-based stuff, and then, okay, the packages they provide are just a .deb and a .rpm, so that would not work on Solus, so I can't use Lightworks on Solus. Fortunately, though, again, I do still have Kdenlive available if I want to use that, which I'm considering switching back to that anyway, because Lightworks is weird. It's functional. It is certainly functional, but it's weird. Alternatively, there's DaVinci Resolve, which currently the audio out only works for like Blackmagic's hardware, and does not actually go through like the your system audio on Linux yet. Hopefully that gets worked out soon, because I'm definitely looking at DaVinci Resolve, because they don't have their stuff like packaged per se. They have their own installer things, so maybe I can get that working eventually once they hopefully work out more of the kinks with Linux stuff for DaVinci Resolve, because DaVinci Resolve looks great. Despite the audio not being able to be listened to, it's pretty good, and it's free. Well, there is a free version, which the free version of DaVinci Resolve is a lot better than the free version of Lightworks, so that's pretty cool. So, yeah. Still looking into that sort of thing, even though I probably am going to switch to Solus as my main distribution. I'm most likely still going to use my secondary partition that this is currently on for an Ubuntu-based install, just so I can use like Lightworks and whatnot. Although, who knows? I'm probably going to end up being happy with Kdenlive again. I don't know. A lot of things to consider there. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. This was my, I was going to say quick look at, but 27 minutes is not really that quick. This is my sort of, kind of, not really review of Solus. Pretty cool operating system, and it's only going to get better as the, I guess we could call him the project lead, has recently been able to work on Solus full-time, so development should speed up, and things are already pretty great as they are now. They're only going to get better, so yeah. Solus is great now. It's only going to get better. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. Definitely have rambled on long enough. If you guys like this, want to see more things like this, if you guys like this, want to see more things similar to this, let me know in the comments below. If you want me to shut up and get back to gaming videos, you can tell me that in the comments too. I keep like glancing over at OBS and I notice like flickering happening. I hope that's not too frequent, because that would be annoying. Anyway, till next time, this has been Akzel. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you dudes in the next one. Stop it! Stop it!